Archbishop of Canterbury Justin Welby announces resignation over abuse scandal. Now, I don't know if you've come across these news articles, but this has currently been trending. And as someone who was being molested as a child, I just wanted to talk about it because I feel like child sexual abuse is something that, for some reason, as a society, we have decided to normalize it. We've decided that it is something that is not important enough, and yet children build society. Like children grow up and make the adults, and they become society. So I wonder why. I wonder why there's such a complacency when it comes to addressing child sexual abuse. And now we can see that the hen has come to roost because this guy is now taking the fall essentially for what has been happening in the church for a very long time. So in today's podcast episode, we're going to read through 3 articles. I'm going to list for you the rest of the articles, including the 3 that we're going to cover in this podcast episode. I will go ahead and list for you all the other articles in the description bar below, so make sure you check it out if you're interested in reading into this story and just seeing how ridiculous the church is and how ridiculous an institution it is and how that is where pedophiles go to hide, that is where child molesters go to hide, and as a matter of fact, that's where they go to thrive. So we're going to start with the Citizen Digital article, then we're going to go ahead and read an article from The Guardian, and then we're going to finish off with an interview that some news article had with the Archbishop directly, and we'll see the narcissism. Oh my god, like I feel like these child molesters, these abusers, these people who allow child abuse to go unpunished they're either narcissists or they're psychopaths. In any case, let's get into the first article. So it says here that the leader of the world's Anglican Communion, Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, announced on Tuesday he was resigning following a damning report that concluded the Church of England covered up a serial abuse case. Welby had faced days of growing pressure to quit after the independent probe found Welby could and should have formally reported decades of abuse by a church-linked lawyer to authorities in 2013. Petition demanding his resignation, launched in the wake of the report's revelations, has garnered nearly 14,000 signatures, while leading clergy, including some bishops, were increasingly urging him to quit. It is very clear that I must take personal and institutional responsibility for the long and re-traumatizing period between 2013 and 2024. We'll later come to learn from another source that this guy knew about these abuse cases from the 80s. So yeah, he's totally lying, Welby said in a statement. I hope this decision makes clear how seriously the Church of England understands the need for change and our profound commitment to creating a safer church. There's no such thing as a safer church. Like literally churches are where pedophiles go to hide, are where molesters go to hide, are where sodomizers go to thrive and do bad things to children in peace. As I step down, I do so in sorrow with all victims and survivors of abuse. The Independent Mackin Review concluded that John Smyth, a lawyer who organized evangelical summer camps in the 1970s and 80s, was responsible for the prolific, brutal, and horrific abuse of as many of 130 boys and young men. It found the Church of England, the mother church of the Anglicanism, covered up the traumatic physical, sexual, psychological, and spiritual attacks which occurred in Britain, Zimbabwe, and South Africa over several decades. Smith, who lived in Africa from 1984, died aged 75 in South Africa in 2018 while under investigation by British police, and he never faced any criminal charges. I'm just going to stop here just to breathe and inhale so that I don't get a cardiac arrest. This is something that I will stand 10 toes down on. The church is the most unsafe space for children. I will, that is a hill that I will die on. Not to say that homes are any safer, because I was being molested in my childhood home, so not to say that homes are any safer. I'm just saying that churches aren't any safer either, right? And what is so problematic is the whole protective covering that religious institutions have. And I'm pretty sure that this is also prevalent and common even in the Islamic faith. We just might not know more about that because they might be more adamant about trashing victims and paying off victim families just to make sure that the cases of sodomy of young children in the mosque and such doesn't come out to the public per se. But I would say that this is something that is prevalent in every faith. In every faith, that is where child molesters go to hide, that is where child abusers go to hide, and that is where child sodomizers go to hide, because they know that they have protection and immunity because of the protective covering that comes with religious institutions. Appointed the Church of England's highest ranking cleric in 2013, Welby has apologized for what occurred but previously insisted he would not resign because he did not know about the wrongdoing before then. On Tuesday, he said that he was told that that police had been notified and had believed wrongly that an appropriate solution would follow. Hours earlier, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, had ratcheted, is it racketed? Whatever, up the pressure on Welby when he said Smith's victims had been failed very, very badly. Asked whether Welby should stand down, Starmer, a former chief prosecutor from England and Wales, said it was a matter in the end for the church. I love how in the patriarchal system there is this shift of responsibility. Like there's a pattern and a trend where we shift responsibility and we allow that to be the case. I have an insect flying around my room. I'm just gonna kill it. We can get back to the episode.
A few moments later.
So I was just talking about how I love how in patriarchy, and by love, I'm being sarcastic, I absolutely detest it. I hate how in patriarchy there's a shift of responsibility. We've just read through here and we've just come across quite a number of people in authority all saying it is not my place. Right? Like, and these people who had the power to stop these heinous things from happening, all of them saying, it's not my place. I feel like the person who came before me should have handled this. I don't have all the information to take the necessary action. And then we see here a whole, what are they? Former chief prosecutor, Jesus, a former chief prosecutor for England and Wales, saying he does not, essentially saying that he doesn't have an opinion on the matter, and that ultimately this is something for the church to handle. And that is why the thumbnail title is, why have we normalized child sexual abuse? Why is it's something that it doesn't press us as a society, it doesn't bother us as a society, it doesn't faze us, and yet these abused children make up the society of the future, which is why issues of rape, issues of women being raped and unalived, men being raped and unalived, that is why we are still struggling with it today. Why? Because these things could have been nipped in the bud years ago, and yet we still allow it to persist, we still allow it to fester. And then when we have a femicide epidemic, everyone and their mother wants to act shocked and surprised. It's baffling. It's absolutely baffling. I am flabbergasted, if you cannot tell. But I'm not going to shy away from the fact that these are horrific allegations and that my thoughts are with the victims in relation to it, he added. The report into Smyth, led by former Social Services Chief Keith Mackin, concluded those at the highest level within the church knew from mid-2013 about the extent of his abusive crimes. The failure to alert police represented a further missed opportunity to bring him to justice, it said. It may also have resulted in an ongoing and avoidable safeguarding threat in the period between 2012 and his death in 2018. The Mackin probe also further criticized the church's response to a 2017 Channel 4 expose of Smith's abuses, calling it poor in terms of speed, professionality, intensity, and curiosity. Guys, this is sickening, to say the very, very least. This is absolutely disgusting. So let's move on to the article by The Guardian. Bishop says more of senior clergy may need to resign over abuse scandal. Julie Connolty, Bishop of Birkenhead, welcomes the resignation of Justin Welby, but says institutional changes are needed. A bishop and a cabinet minister have said more senior clergy in the Church of England may need to resign after a damning report into the sadistic abuser. Julie Connolty, the Bishop of Birkenhead and Deputy Lead Bishop for Safeguarding, said Justin Welby had done the right thing on Tuesday by resigning as Archbishop of Canterbury. Connolty told BBC Radio 4's Today programme, just the Archbishop of Canterbury resigning is not going to solve the problem, and I agree. This is about institutional changes, our culture and a systemic failure, so there must be more that we need to do. Very possibly, some of the people should go. West Streeting, the health secretary and a practicing Anglican, said it was right that Welby had taken responsibility for the C of E's failure on abuse. But in a warning to other church leaders, he added, don't think one head rolling solves the problem. There are deep and fundamental issues of practice and culture on safeguarding that need to be taken seriously. The culture of cover-up has been part of the problem on serious abuse allegations for far too long, he told the BBC. The independent Mackin report has said Welby, the spiritual leader of 85 million Anglicans worldwide, was insufficiently curious about allegations of abuse by John Smyth, a barrister who ran Christian summer camps in the 1970s and 80s. Survivors have said that other senior clergy who failed to take effective action when told of Smith's abuse should also resign, and I agree. The review of Smith's case names several serving and retired bishops as people who are told of allegations. They include Stephen Conway, the Bishop of Lincoln and formerly the Bishop of Ely. In a statement issued on Tuesday, Conway said he was deeply sorry for not rigorously pursuing the matter with the Archbishop of Canterbury. He insisted that he did all he could within his authority by making a detailed disclosure to Lambeth Palace and contacting in diocese in South Africa to which Smyth had moved. I'm clear that I did all within my authority as a Bishop of the Church of England, bearing in mind that I had no authority over an entirely independent province on another continent. And this is where I find this to be so, I'm telling you, the hypocrisy, like, oh my God, society needs an overhaul, because it's so, honestly, as a victim of child sexual abuse, reading these things just makes my blood boil. We can see time and time again how patriarchy permits mostly men to transfer responsibility and say, it was not my call to make. To say, I did not have the power. And yet, they do have the power and they do have the sway when it comes to matters of exploitation. When it comes to matters of exporting vaccines that will kill African children, exporting vaccines that will kill that will kill and harbor the fertility of young African women. Suddenly they have the power. It was just a phone call. It was just a signature. And yet, when it comes to doing the right thing, see here how he's saying, oh, I feel that was not my place. No, it's totally far away. That was outside of my jurisdiction. Honestly, it's so disgusting. What else did he say? I am clear that I did all within my authority as a Bishop of the Church of England, bearing in mind that I had no authority over an entirely independent province on another continent. I acknowledge fully that my fault was not in rigorously pursuing Lambeth about the province-to-province communication, and for this I am deeply sorry. Tell that to the victims, like my guy. The independent report said Conway and others had been complacent. I agree. And that serious abuse and crimes were being covered up, in quotes, because all these crimes are ongoing, being covered up at the time. Mark Steeb, a former vicar, I don't know what that is, and survivor of abuse, said senior church figures should step down. Honestly, they shouldn't just step down, they should go to prison. I feel like we forget that when it comes to doing a crime, you can also go to prison for being complicit, for being an accessory to the crime. All these people should be behind bars. Survivors wanted more resignations because that means more accountability, people taking responsibility for having been silent when they should have spoken, he told Channel 4 News. Andrew Moss, another victim of Smyth, said Welby was just the leader and there are countless other Anglican churchmen who equally bear responsibility. I agree. Welby had provided an example for them when they follow it, Welby had provided an example for them whether they follow it or not. Stephen Cottrell, the Archbishop of York, said, some people pretty systematically cover this up. And those people do need to be brought to account. They need to be brought to justice. However, he declined to be drawn on individuals such as Conway. Those who had actively covered up Smyth's abuse were not bishops, he said. That's a lie. Welby had resigned as a way of taking personal responsibility for institutional failings, Cottrell told the BBC. The C of E was taking steps to put effective safeguarding measures in place, but it was frustrating that it was taking so long. Cottrell, who expected to step up to the top position in the church until a new Archbishop of Canterbury is appointed, said, I now find I have additional responsibilities to change the culture and to change the way the church is safeguarded. Connolty also said she could not guarantee the C of E was a safe institution because it's not. It is frustrating for me because in many ways we have been working really hard at making churches safer places, she said. No institution, nothing can be totally safe, but there have been loads of really good work. I don't agree with the rest of that. What I'll say is that what I love about this article is that, number one, it's very timely and on brand for the things that I have been talking about, being molested as a child, and a lot of people around being complacent, and everybody can play innocent because at the time we didn't have the rigorous surveillance that we have today, and so everyone can say that, oh no, I didn't know, I actually had no idea, even when they themselves know deep inside their heart that they knew good and well. It was just convenient, easy to say nothing and do nothing and pretend they don't know because the status quo was serving them. And we can see the same thing playing out here just on a bigger scale. Now this is the church, and that was just one homestead. And that's why I said I would go so far as to say 1 in 3 children is being abused in some form or fashion. It's either physical abuse, sexual abuse, or narcissistic abuse, emotional abuse. And that is why I have to talk about this, because it is so sickening how prevalent it is. It is so disgusting, to be honest. And we're going to wrap up this podcast episode with an interview that Channel 4 had with the man himself. And guys, you will see so many traits of narcissism from his responses. And we'll be doing more in detailed episodes about narcissism and just narcissistic abuse, because I'm also learning so much about it. And the problem with it is that it's a very invisible kind of abuse, because it's very targeted, it's very specific. And so you will be saying that you're suffering from narcissistic abuse, and everybody is looking at you like, I can't really relate because that person treats me really well. And so anyway, to make sure you don't miss those episodes, because actually it's a series of episodes, to make sure you don't miss them, make sure you hit the subscribe button and also turn on the post notification bell to be notified when that goes live. So let's go ahead and get into this article. I considered resigning over the John Smyth scandal, says Archbishop of Canterbury. He considered it. So he wasn't like, I'm going to resign. I am going to be a man about this, and I'm going to take responsibility and do the right thing. He was like, no, I think doing the right thing sounds really good, but not if it's not at the cost of my comfort, not at the cost of my convenience, is basically what this statement reads. So let's go ahead and get into this. It says, we sat down with the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby. We began by asking his reaction to a report revealing the senior members of the Church of England covered up abuse perpetrated by one of its members for more than 40. This is disgusting. For more than 40 years. Okay, so this is what Justin Welby had to say. I take responsibility for the consequences and for dealing with it now since I was Archbishop. When the abuse took place in the UK, I was in my late teens, early 20s. Some of it was before I had come to the Christian faith, many years before I was ordained. And it was one of the number of horrific historical legacy cases of abuse that I found when I came into being Archbishop in 2013. I was told about this. I heard about this for the first time in July, August 2013, about 4 months after I took over, and didn't know anything before then or had any suspicions. Then this is what the reporter asks. Well, that's not quite true. We'll come back to that. But you said you're dealing with this now, but you have been Archbishop for nearly a decade. And what the Mackin review sets out is that senior church leaders, including yourself, missed so many opportunities to deal with this. Do you accept that? Justin said, I accept that from August 2013 until your program uncovered this in a documentary in 2017, that I did not, and I take responsibility for this, and it was a failure, and a really shaming failure. I did not ensure that this was pursued as energetically, as remorselessly as it should have been. The reporter said, you knew in 1980s, you went to the camps and so on, you exchanged Christmas cards with John Smyth after he moved to Zimbabwe. He continued to abuse boys there, and I see you don't know, and he continued to abuse boys there, and I see you don't know about that. But you also funded his mission out there. That suggested that this is more than a passing acquaintance with this man. Justin says, lots of people funded his mission. Funding his mission, I don't know what it was spending. I'm trying to speak on his behalf, and honestly, it just sounds like he's lying through his teeth, and it's funny, but in a really sadistic and disgusting kind of way. So I'm sorry, let's just take that from the top. This is what Justin had to say. Lots of people funded his mission. Funding his mission, I don't know what its spending was, but it wasn't a lot, I suspect. I have no idea. I never saw the accounts. I think on 2 separate occasions I gave maybe 40 or 50 pounds. Then this is what the reporter says. Now, when we spoke in 2019, after my investigation, you said, and just to quote back to you, I genuinely had no idea that there was anything as horrific as this going on. If I had known that, I'd have been very active, but I had no suspicions at all. Those are his words quoted back to him. No suspicions at all. You'd just been informed of the seriousness of John Smyth's abuse in 2013. This is what Justin said. I was told there was an accusation of abuse, and this is where I went wrong. Safeguarding at that point had one person for the national part of the Church of England half-time. We're now around 40. And those are reforms I brought in myself. At that time, I asked the necessary questions, which was to say, have the police been informed? Have social services been informed? I was told that they had. Then the reporter went on to say, did you not think when you saw the man's name? Do you think I shared a dormitory with him? I exchanged Christmas cards with him. I funded his mission. Did you not think I must make sure and do everything I personally can to ensure that no other victims in South Africa suffer what all those poor victims suffered in the UK and then Zimbabwe? It wasn't until rather later, tragically, that we saw the Ruston report, which detailed the reporter interjected. This was the secret report in 1982. Then Justin says, the secret report, and when you read that, you just wanted to go back and be sick. It was infinitely worse than the verbal report was given. The victims are calling for your resignation. Justin says, I know, and I understand why they're doing that. What happened? I was given advice about police inquiries and don't interfere and this sort of thing. Huh? I was given advice about police inquiries and don't interfere in this sort of thing. Now we have a system that we put in place because of this. Long before this report, that would prevent me not doing something and being given that advice. I shouldn't have taken the advice. My heart said, see them, and I should have followed my heart on that. It's my fault. The reporter interjected and said, you have avoided the question. Which was the victims want you to resign? Will you resign? I've been giving a lot of thought for actually quite a long time. There's nothing over the last 10 years that has been as horrible as dealing with not just this one, but innumerable other abuse cases. Oh, this is so sickening. As you will see from the IICSA inquiry and other things, I've given it a lot of thought. I've taken advice as recently as this morning from senior colleagues, and no, I'm not going to resign for this. If I'd known before 2013 or had grounds for suspicion, that would be a resigning matter then and now, but I didn't. But you considered it as recently as this morning. Yeah. Jamini, ishi nafanya mtu asikie kutapika. This makes me, I'm sorry, for someone watching outside of Kenya. This makes me want to vomit, is what I just said. It makes me want to hide, it makes me want to literally projectile vomit because it is so disgusting. This is the church. This is someone who is a spiritual leader. This is someone who is responsible for 85 million people, they said. And this is, and after, God, this is so disgusting. Even after, God, this is so disgusting. Okay. There's something I just want to read out to you before we end the episode. And it's something that he said. The secret report. And I'm not sure if I'll be able to highlight this for, oh yes, yay me. The secret report. And when you read that you just wanted to go and be sick, it was infinitely worse than the verbal report I was given. These are his words. These are his words. He said when he read the report, it made him sick. But even still, he said, no, I will not be resigning. And this was on November 7th. Obviously, we know that he resigned on November 12th. So he ate his words just 5 short days later. And I love karma. And I love when karma plays out in public. This makes me so disgusted. He said that the secret report, when he read it and it made him sick. He said that the report was infinitely worse. Infinitely. For somebody to use such a strong word, it means that it really traumatized him. It really traumatized him. But even still, he was like, no, even if this traumatizes me, even though this will be haunting my nightmares, I will not be taking responsibility. I will not be doing anything to give the victims reprieve. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the society that we have created for ourselves. This is why we are facing the problems that we are facing today. This is why when I talk about this thing, I'm pretty sure right now I have a lot of family members who are like, can't believe she's not over this thing already. Why I still have videos about abuse? Because that is the society that we have built. We expect victims of abuse to pick up and move on as if nothing happened, and we encourage it. We want to encourage people who have been abused to hurry up and heal because you're dealing with your pain is making us feel guilty, and we don't like that. You're making this problem that should be our problem, and we don't like that. I don't like that at all. Anyway, the open-ended question is, why do you think that as a society we have normalized child sexual abuse? That is an open-ended question. I would love other people's take on the matter, because honestly, I cannot fathom for the life of me. I cannot put my brain cells together to imagine or to think why we as a society are so okay with child sexual abuse. I myself don't have any answers as someone who was being molested as a child. I don't know why that was something that still happened, even though I was in the safety of my family home. I don't know how such a thing could have occurred, and I don't know why we are okay with it. So if you have any 2 cents to share on the matter, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. As I said at the start of the podcast episode, link all these articles for you guys to read through them in your own time and at your own leisure, as well as additional articles that I didn't cover in this particular podcast episode because I didn't want it to be over an hour long. I didn't want it to just drag on and on and on. That's it for this podcast episode, and I'll see you in the next one.